Okay, so I'm going to start from the very, very beginning for those who don't know me. So, my name is Kia Keeley, Taylor Kia Keeley Hamilton. I'm an options trader. I've been trading options since March of 2020. A lot of you are here because you know that already, but even for people who may be brand new to teach.trade, new to trading, and are still trying to discover themselves in the trading world, I want to introduce myself and just to give some background. Started in March of 2020. I was working a 9 to 5 job. I was driving 2 hours back and forth from Princeton, or from New York to Princeton, and at 4 hours of my day. COVID happened, went remote, had lots of time in my day. Just a week prior to going remote, I had learned that you could make money on stocks falling. I had never known that before in my life. When the NBA shutdown happened, all of the things in my brain worked. That, oh my God, the stock market is going to crash. If planes can't fly, they can't make money. And I just learned that you can make money on stocks falling. Woke up the next morning, took $200 of my bank, and I didn't care what happened to it because I felt so sure that the market was going to drop. The $200 turned into $400 within just about 2 hours. Fastest money I'd ever made in my life. And from there, I was hooked because I felt like I saw my life all ahead of me, that this was going to be the thing that changed my life and changed the life for my family. What it eventually became is that we built such a community that is built on love, support, great energy. And for the thousands of people who have just come in and out of the trading space, we've really curated such a space where education and support is at the forefront of our mission. And so essentially, that is what led to the creation of AutoStratic, which we're going to demo here for you. Okay, from $200 to 1.7 million in 3 years. Okay, and now this tool is to use the knowledge I've gained over the past 3 years and give people more confidence and analysis in their trading so that they can trade smoothly, more confidently, and everything, so that I can share that piece of you to be able to make it a smoother experience for yourself. Okay. Everyone press 1 in chat if you feel me, you hear me. Every, all right, lots of ones. Uno, uno, uno. Let's get into it, all right? So, just a little bit of background, right? The average trader. 90% of traders' main issue is how to find trades and how to have better entries and exits, right? This is probably a question that a lot of you have asked. At some point, like, how do I make my entries better? How do I get my exits? Sometimes I get into calls, they reverse on me. Sometimes I get into a trade and it's going well, but I don't know when to get out. And that itself leads to losses. And all these questions and things you don't fully know how to operate in the space, it can lead to drawdown, losses on your portfolio, and you feel like you lose your support system and lose your confidence. Only 20% of traders are profitable. And this is just an estimation. It's somewhere between 5 to 20% of traders who are profitable. How do we increase this number, right? Because this is a small number, there has to be a reason. One of the reasons we do know is that markets can be very much influenced by the bigger players in the market, and we're kind of under the realm of what they're doing. So, how do we match what they're doing? Because they're getting billions and billions of dollars more and more, while the average retail trader, us, are losing. How do we tap into some of their secrets? How do we operate in such a manner that is more consistent, that can help us grow? Furthermore, the main thing, because of all of this, many traders get overwhelmed with the process of making trades and the stress and emotional welfare that may come with it. I don't know about y'all. Actually, I do know about y'all, and I can empathize with y'all, with everyone, because trading can be stressful. We're dealing with real money. We know what's involved here, and we're all here because we're trying to attain something that lessens the stress, that makes it more comfortable and more operable towards our dreams, our goals, and our situations. So finally, let's talk about the process in making a trade. And this is all of the background I'm giving that's going to lead us into AutoStratic, okay? The steps you need to make before actually buying a trade can be overwhelming. These are all the steps that you take. And some of us are so used to trading, and this is also going to show for beginners. Feel free to screenshot any page or screenshot any point that when we're going over this. For beginners, this really is the process, the honest to do process before you even enter a trade, right? Number one, there's actually another slide, but I'm going to actually say number one is actually finding the stock. Some people, especially when I do investment class, they ask, what stock should I be looking at? Well, that's a very context heavy question, right? It is a lot of context. What are you looking for? That in itself is a loaded question of where even to start. After you find the stock, you have to probably read the news. After reading the news, is it good news? Is it bad news? You have to chart on the stock. You have to read the chart. Then you have to determine, is the stock going up or down? How long it may take before it goes up or down. If you're trading options, time and the timing of your entry is so important because it has to happen in the time before your stock expires. You decide the time of entry. How precise do you need to be? You have to decide if you're going to buy a long position, which is a call in options, or a short position, a put in options. Then these extra steps down here, steps 6 and 7, are if you are trading options. And as we'll get into, AutoStratic works on many a tickers or asset classes, all of the asset classes, but a lot of us trade options. But you have to decide the strike price. You have to decide the expiration, how much time and safety you want to add. Then you'll decide how much you will spend. Then you hit the buy button, right? All of that, and then you hit the buy button. As we've gotten used to trading, a lot of us who are intermediate and advanced, we kind of make these steps pretty quickly, right? Because our brains are able to repeat the task and already have some of that data to super fly ourselves towards the buy button point, right? Some of us don't even think about what trade we enter. In the past, in 2020, 2021, sometimes you didn't even have to think too hard about it. But when you are starting out, this is a big barrier that even prevents traders, especially newer ones, from even knowing where to go. And that's really important for why I'm putting this slide, so that we're literally laying it all out clearly what it is, right? And so all of those steps that we just mentioned right there, right? Just about all of those steps, AutoStratic comes into the picture and skips over all of them, right? All of those steps that really harbor on your emotions and your analytical thinking and everything, AutoStratic is doing its best to skip over these steps, or at least help you through those decisions and thought processes so that you are on the right track, you're not getting distracted, and that you are settling into yourself a consistent trading process. Press 1 if that makes sense. So what is AutoStratic? What actually is it, right? It's an algorithmic charting software built on TradingView's programming language, PineScript. So number one, in order to use AutoStratic, you need an account on TradingView. TradingView is free. You can have a free account on TradingView, and they allow for up to 2 to 3 indicators. And good for everyone, AutoStratic is actually comprised of 2 indicator slots. Okay. Well, the standalone is actually just one, but for the full thing, you kind of just only need two. I traded my first 6 months from that $200 to $100,000. That first 6 months, I did all of that on the free version of TradingView. So you do not need to upgrade to use AutoStratic or to be profitable. But, when you do upgrade, there are lots of tools that they offer you that I find beneficial, at least. One of the only algorithmic trading tools that is trained solely on real-time price action. So that is true, right? This does not use any lagging indicators to make its determinations whatsoever. So no moving averages, no MACD, no RSI, and no VWAP. If there's any lagging indicator, it does not use any of them. It uses the data of real-time price action, right? And it is determining this as soon as either market closes and or when the market opens and during the trading day. It assists you during the trading day using the price action happening in real time, okay? What it does is it reads the past 180 days. It analyzes it for certain variables that I've decided, and we'll get into what those variables are. And then it uses that data, then compares it to the data on the current day or current whatever time frame on the chart. After looking at the data, it attempts to determine if there's a trade set up or not. Okay, so it harbors all of that data, uses these variables, a lot of them based on the strat trading system, others trained on my winning trades, and whatever else I thought was useful, but always real-time price action based, okay? And it determines if there's a trade setup or not by the end. After determining the trade setup, AutoStratic will chart the setup for you, okay? And when we go over to the charts, we'll see exactly how it does this and where it's at, okay? It charts the setup for you. Like, as using TradingView, you have to learn how to use some of the tools, the drawing tools to mark up your charts. It is marking up the chart for you with the entry level, the target level. It makes it extra clean and not confusing. And if you are confused, we're trying to reach with these sessions, we're trying to reach so that you do understand. But we're trying our best not to confuse anyone, right? With its AI options generate trade ideas, it can help determine a decent strike price and expiration. So when a trade setup is detected and you have the options trade ideas thing on, which is not financial advice, but it can be used as a very strong reference for what strike price and expiration that you can consider purchasing, okay? And that's the first of its kind. The only tool on TradingView that does that. No others, okay? And when there are, you'll see that this is where it started first, okay? And so we're very unique in that area, and we try to have that so that we establish, and we're very honest about how it works and just the processes of where it goes. And its probabilities are very impressive thus far. With many of the options trade ideas, if you're new here, you can check the testimonials channel in the server, and there've already been many people with the trade ideas and the setups from AutoStratic and have already seen returns. It will suggest high probability entry points of where to take entry and what side of the trade, okay? It will give estimated price targets of where to take profit, okay? And with the radar, as we'll get into, it scans from 40 to 200 tickers to locate the trades for you, okay? So think about all of those things with the decision making and how we arrived at actually entering the trade. It is doing these things for you, or at least doing the work and putting a whole established, in a sense, like spreadsheet right on your chart saying, hey, we gathered this data. This is what you might want to check out. This is a high probability setup. You might want to check this out. Hey, it's high probability. You might want to see this as the entry level. If it triggers that entry level, you might enter this trade. It might go to this target. Okay. So what is AutoStratic? Just to summarize, right? It is an algorithmic software that generates trade ideas. It can be used as a watch list generator. As we will see, the radar, when we do the scan within seconds, all of the high probability, or what it considers a high probability setups that you may want to consider, puts it right in front of you. So you don't even have to go looking. It can be a reference tool to help with charting and technical analysis. You can actually go back in time and press the rewind button and go back and see previous trade setups that it detected and see how it worked out. If you want to just really see how it works and what happened in certain situations, by all means, we give you that option. And you can learn from it to better understand what a winning trade looks like. It's a helpful tool to skip the steps of the trading process as we went over. What isn't AutoStratic? It is not an auto trading software, okay? There are some trading websites and things out there, right, that actually press the buy button, press the sell button for you, right? And this is not that. This is not a broker. We are not dealing with brokers. Maybe some way down the line, there could be some integration that we can use for certain things, but it is not an auto trading software. It's not buying it. It's not selling it. Okay. It is not all knowing. It is not 100% accurate. It isn't perfect, but it has back tested based on our data between an 86 and 89% accuracy, depending on the context of the current market and what the past 180 days look like. Okay. With all this said, when you sign up for this, here's a disclaimer, because we know this is not to be financial advice. But we built this tool because it's a helpful tool that's going to get you above and beyond so that you're not outside of that 20% profitability of all traders, as we discussed. Okay. Make sense, everybody? So we're going to hop into some demos and see exactly what's going on here, okay? Let's look at ES, okay? So just on Monday, when market was closed, right? So if I maybe dial this back. So ES has been moving up. Then yesterday we had a bit of a slowdown, right? Then at this point, we got a trade idea, right? There could have been trade ideas all up in here, but at this point, on futures, we're looking at a trade idea that was generated by this time when market closed on Monday, okay? So what we currently see on the chart, we see a long entry, we see a short entry, and let me zoom in just a little bit so these are just a bit more clear, okay? Long entry and the short entry, and we see the target levels, okay? Each target level labeled with a price. What this means when we see this at market close is that we are using this data as a reference for the next trading session, okay? For the next trading session. So we see this, these are trade ideas generated for Tuesday. How we use these levels as a reference is that when price crosses above the long entry, that would be a signal to take a trade to the upside, right? If we cross from here above. When it's the short entry on Tuesday that we would use to take a short entry, as we expect the stock, if it falls, and we're taking it down, and we're using these targets as a reference for where to take profit, okay? This target, at least in this example, is pretty close on futures, but we're still using it as a reference, right? Because we can do our own charting data and maybe look at a previous high as other places where we can take profit. Now I'm going to just write them down here with these gray lines, okay? So this was the daily chart. As we just opened up a chart on S&P futures and went to the one-day chart. And we added it to our chart. To add it as well, after you have AutoStratic, you'd go to indicators, you'd go to invite only scripts, and then you'd click on AutoStratic with the light bulb. And that's how you click it and put it on your chart, okay? I'm gonna go down to a smaller time frame. Let's say the 15-minute now, okay? And so we'll see what it looks like when we're on the 15-minute now. So now we just started the next trading session. This candle that I'm gonna label right here, I'm gonna label that yellow, okay? This candle is the start, the first candle of this trading session, okay? So you saw that the long entry and short entry were highlighted green and red before, right? When the trade idea setup actually happens, when the trade setup actually happens, it goes to gray. It won't change until one side or the other is taken. Okay, so as I'm going through here, you see it was gray, and now once we crossed above, let me jump back right a bit. Once we crossed above that level, it went from entry, it went from long entry to triggered entry. Okay, and highlighted green. This is the point of which you can take calls, or in this case, just a long entry because it's futures. So this isn't an options trade. In this case, we already hit the target pretty early, right? So in a sense, that could have been a winning trade with a really small profit. And we're going to get into other sort of higher end winning trades, okay? But even still, in this case, what happened was when we crossed above this level, right? This point here of entry was the point of entry, right? Entry for a long position. And crossed above. And you could have taken it either to that small target, but this gray line, remember, we went back and did just a bit extra charting just because we're using our handy dandy brains and whatever knowledge we have of a previous high as a resistance. And you could have taken it up there. This trade will reward you between 10% and 50 to 100%. Depending on your expiration, if you're using this to trade SPY, or if you have a position in a futures contract. Okay? And essentially, this is how you would use it intraday for when it's finding the trade idea on the daily, and it will keep the trade idea on your chart on any lower time frame below. So you don't have to stay on the daily chart. You can actually go on a lower time frame and then use it in this fashion. Makes sense for that case, everyone? One other add that I'm just going to throw in this case is that, well, I may or may not mention it here, but what you can see, what I just did is just I added the range rush reversal tool, and not to just get too ahead of ourselves, but with the range rush reversal tool, which many are familiar, very simple trading strategy, you could have used it in tandem here for more confirmation of where to enter, as well as what the current momentum of the stock was. Okay, but we can cover that again on another example. So let's look at another example, okay? So here, here was one more example just on Intel from today. And I can use past examples and more and whatnot. We can definitely get into that, but I'm just going to use for today just because it's very timely. Okay. So in this example, again, we had the long entry generated and the short entry generated. It looks very similar to SPY, right? This one had a bit more extra dollars on the table for us to imagine here, okay? So it triggered the trade idea. It triggered the entry, went up to the target, and flew even further. Okay. This rewarded between 50 to 120% profit today, depending on your expiration. Okay. So this was one more example just from today. All right. One more we're gonna just locate here. And maybe we'll go back in time and see something real beautiful. Okay. Here's one of the very impressive trades that happened some time ago. So back here, we're going to see this in real time actually as well. And what I'm going to do is that I'm going to open up the settings. How I open up the settings is either I double click on the indicator itself, or I open up my indicators panel on the left, click on AutoStratic, click on this gear icon that says settings, okay? So to be very clear again, AutoStratic works with every asset class, okay? Stocks, options, crypto, futures, Forex, metals, okay? So in this case, since we're trading options, let's check that out. When we select that, the algorithm actually changes and adjusts so that it's suitable for options trading. Okay? Some of the settings say what time frame to use for intraday levels. This is automatically set to auto, but depending on what time frame you find a trade idea, you may want to have that trade idea or that level stay on the chart. So you find something on the weekly, but you want to stay on the 15-minute time frame, you can select the weekly setup and it'll stay on your chart while you're trading on that time frame. Make sense, everyone? How many price targets to display? The max right now is 2. We'll try to rev that up in future updates, but for the most part, you just need 2. Okay. Some other customization options here. We haven't spoken about the action box yet, but we'll get to that. I'm actually going to turn accessibility on. That's going to do something for us. And I'm also going to turn, since we're on options now, we can click the options trade signals. And so this is going to showcase how the options trade ideas are demonstrated in real time. Okay, so we click OK, and now we're back to our chart. As we're going down here, right? And actually, let me show, this is actually pretty important, what just happened. So in this case, right? As a firm, this chart is in an uptrend, it generated a trade idea for calls as it's analyzing that we're currently in an uptrend because stock is trending up, right? We generated a trade idea for calls. In this case, it generated a trade idea for April calls, okay? What happened on the next candle? What can we say here? Well, what happened? We didn't cross that level. Oh, we generated a trade idea for calls. I thought it was going to go up. Well, so yeah, so did that. But if there's no trade trigger, there's no trade entry. Okay? If there's no trade trigger, there's no trade entry. And so if this did not trigger that level, then it means, according to AutoStratic, there's no trade to be taken. Okay? That makes sense to everybody? That hopefully that is clear. As we start to go down, now there's another trade idea generated here. Okay? This one's $11 puts. So what we have right here in the top right corner, we have what's called the action box. The action box will tell you what actionable signal is currently displayed on the chart. And this could be one of 5 things. This could be a shooter. This could be a hammer. This can be an inside candle. This can be a kicking pattern, or it can be a pivot machine gun. Some of those terms may not be fully known to everyone, okay? But we have a whole instructional booklet covering all said terms, all right? But from at least hammer, inside candle, and shooter, those are very important that you can learn just today. Honestly, I can just say what the shooter looks like. It looks like an upside down T, where we have a big old skinny line that we call the wick and a little old body of the candle. Okay, and it looks like an upside down T. What can we say about a shooter? It gives us information and increases the probability, or I don't want to say increases the probability, but gives us information that the likelihood of the stock can go down on the next candle. Okay, and so these are some of the variables that are being forecasted and read in AutoStratic and then compared to the current day of how bearish are we at this level and what can we use to determine now in real time what can we use for the next candle and to determine the trade setup on it. Okay, so it says an entry for puts if we cross below this level, and a trade idea for $11 puts. Let's see what happened. It triggered an entry here, right? And we can zone in down to the lower time frame as well. On this trading day, right at open, it triggered the entry, which, because this is actually triggering the entry, then that's an ample entry for puts. And then this fell down quite a bit and rewarded a lot of profit depending on your expiration. Okay. And while there were no targets to say where it hit, I think we can use our brains to say that if not so, if we're up and we have profit, that can be something that we use to take profit. Okay. And again, we can use the range rush reversal to also confirm what we already know or see. So if there aren't targets displayed on AutoStratic, maybe we can use the range rush reversal as well to help us with some estimated target levels for where we should be exiting our position. Make sense, everyone? So let's go on ahead, see what else AutoStratic has in store. Because not even just that, depending on your expiration, it wasn't even just for day trading. If we use some of our knowledge, if we are an intermediate or advanced trader, we would know that the most recent lows, and this is also using strat terminology, but you don't need to know all of that to use this tool. But we're just giving you a bit more information that can help you. From entry, we look at all of the previous lows as target levels, okay? And in this case, from that entry, we actually hit all of these most recent lows pretty well, huh? And this was over the course of a few days. But it at least helps us in that case with more confluence and what the possibility can be when the trade idea is generated and executed. So in this case, there was another trade idea generated there. $10 puts for May 19th. It triggered. It hit the entry. Intraday, from entry, this was a really good trade, right? And you could have gotten quite a bit of profit here. Intraday, it bounced, as we can see. But if we from entry and have ample time of a move, we have to take profit along the way, don't we? Right? And I set those reminders on the side here where it actually says to take profit. And I just want to make sure really quick that that's the most recent version of AutoStratic. Okay, so it is. So after we actually had a winning trade, another trade idea was actually alerted right after. So now it's considering a trade idea to the upside, right? But in this case, it didn't even trigger the trade idea. So again, no entry, we're still bearish. One more time. Similar situation again. Let's see if this time actually triggers. We have an entry for calls. We have targets up here, and we have a trade idea generated for $10 calls for May 19th. In the top right, we can see the action box telling us exactly what the chart setup is showing us in front of us, as well as one of our actionable signals, 2 actionable signals. The more actionable signals, I feel as though, the better. Because what an actionable signal is, it's an alert, a notification, hey, this is tradable. A notification, this is to take action. And so in this case, in a single day, from entry, we hit all of the targets and even more, right? And in this case, we can see that the targets were much further away, okay? And that's at least walking through how to see about when the ideas are generated, how to take trade setups, and what it looks like in real time. Press 3 if this all makes sense now. Because we still have a bit more. Do we have any beginners up in here? We want to make sure this is making sense. So it's walking through the process with you all together. Okay. You're a beginner GC? Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're here to serve you. And we're also going to have lots of beginner content as well as educational materials on beginner things, as well as tools for charting, tools for learning the strat. Again, learning the strat is not necessary to use AutoStratic, okay? But we just know that we're using variables from it in order to determine real-time price action and high probability setups, okay? So let's check out the radar. And then after this, we'll close today and we'll return tomorrow. Okay, but hopefully so far this has been making it much clearer. I hope that I've been very clear in my delivery. This is my first time doing this, at least this type of session for the Teach That Trade. So I really do hope that I've been very clear, very honest, very truthful, and showcasing this, okay, and how to use it so that there's no confusion. So what I did is I went to the indicators tab, I went to invite only, and I clicked on AutoStratic radar. Okay. So the AutoStratic radar, this is a tool that scans for tickers that have AutoStratic setups. Okay. How many tickers are out there in the market? Hundreds, right? Potentially thousands. How do we narrow it down so that we know going into the next trading day or going into the next trading week or the next month, how do we know what is on our actual toolkit so that we're not ending up in losing trades? And also that we don't have to go through every single ticker to chart it just to find out. Well, this is finding it out for you in mere seconds. At least to tell you where to go investigate and do just maybe a little more deep diving. All right. So this is the radar, and it's scanned for about 10 tickers or so. Even though it's looking at many, it found about 10 tickers that maybe there's a possibility going into the next trading day. If I double click, what some people don't know, and what I want to demonstrate, is that you can change the time frame that is displayed on here. Okay. If I switch to the weekly, it's going to switch to the weekly time frame. Whatever setups are determined there in real-time price action on the weekly chart. So right now, as you can see, there's nothing displayed here. Weekly time frames are only available from Friday to Monday. Okay. So when you are doing this during the weekend, between Friday and Monday, you want to make sure that you could either take a screenshot, you could either write it down, especially as you're narrowing down your choices. This is only going to be available during that time, because that's the time where it's doing the scanning, not during the full trading week. Okay. But what else we have here on the chart, as we go back to the daily, AutoStratic is showing us as well for the current trading day. So the triggers here are showing from the things from today, right? And this was updating in real time during today. It's showing which stocks and tickers, if they triggered an entry to the downside, if they triggered an entry to the upside, and if they hit their target while doing so. So this gives us a whole overview, and it's very much even more useful in real time during the trading day. I'm only going to show you, because market is closed, what it looks like. But during the trading day, this is blank. And then it updates one by one all of these things happening as they happen. And it's the only tool that does that in real time. Most things out there, it really is only at market close. The data updates at the things, but this is useful in real time. It's for this case, the only tool that does it. All right, so let's check out what happened on AMD. So we switched to AMD on the thing. And by the way, what I was going to say earlier that I interrupted myself a little bit with is that you can actually move this. Some people, when they first started using AutoStratic, they're like, oh my God, it's right in front of the screen. It's literally covering my charts. What do? Well, if you go to the chart or the settings, you can change the size of the radar. You can change the position of the radar. So I want this on the right. I click on the right. It eventually moves. There it is. Boom. Now it's not covering any of my charts. Maybe I want it on the bottom right. And also, maybe it's just taking up a lot of space. I want to have it horizontal instead of vertical. Because vertical, it's kind of doing that, but I want it horizontal and in this right corner. And boom, just like that. Now you have a table and you can accurately and just very smoothly see from an overview all of the things that you want to look at. Okay. You can change the color if you want. Okay. You can change the color, you can change the text color, so on and so forth. You can customize what tickers even show. And so the default settings kind of really gives a whole overview of most of the most popular tickers that you might really want to be considered trading after all. In the Pro Edition, which we won't hop into everything today, but in the Pro Edition, there's way more. You can scan just about every single ticker in the market. Okay, but here you're able to have some customization and add whichever ones if you want to narrow it down. Okay. So we landed on AMD because there was a trade set up on AMD, right? And similarly, you know, like a lot of things, they were just pretty close to the target level, but it worked out regardless. From the beginning of the trading day towards entry for calls, from entry to all the way up here, you made profit. You made dollars. Depending on the expiration, most expirations, you made at least $50. You made at least 20%, 30%, you know. Then depending on how heavy you're even going. But one contract of AMD, you're making at least $50 on this move. Okay? From entry to level of target exit, even further if you want to use the range rush reversal as your partner. So in this case, the range rush reversal triggered earlier here for possible entry. And we also have confirmation of AutoStratic. So both can be used as tools, and you know, depending on your risk profile, that can help you determine how early of an entry you may want. But both were very valid given the context of the charts here. A great question that was asked here in chat, but I just wanted to make sure I demonstrated the AutoStratic radar and that we showed how it worked in real time on something that happened on AMD. Here's what also shows that I want to be very clear. It also tells you to take profit on the chart. You know, this is not financial advice. This is just screaming in your ear, hey, I think the trade went up quite enough. You might want to consider taking profit. Because why is taking profit so hard for us? Because we always think about if we could make more. We always think about the time that we lost money and there's a time where we didn't hold long enough that it worked out. So then those times play in our brain and saying, oh, last time I didn't hold long enough, I'm going to hold forever now. And you end up holding until it's a loss because now you just switched up your playbook. We're doing this so that you don't switch up your playbook, that you just do what you have to do. And as an educator instructor, that's how I describe taking profit. That's how I describe following your process, following your plan, because that's literally what trading needs to be towards you. Do what you have to do. Tell that in your brain. And I'll type that in chat, word for word, if you can. Do what you have to do. I want everybody to be saying this in their head. Do what you have to do. Okay? because this is what you need in your plate, in your process when you're trading. If you're not doing what you have to do, if you're not following your plan, if you're not taking profit, if you're not cutting your losses before, in terms of managing your risk in a certain fashion, what's going to happen? You veer off, you get confused, you lose confidence, you start switching up the recipe, and now the cake you baked doesn't really taste all that great. All right. Someone asked a really important question here. Would you take a trade based on a retest of a triggered level? Let's show exactly what happened the previous day. So Verizon generated a trade idea for puts. Okay, $35 puts expiring next week. So it generated a trade idea for puts. We have orb along with us here. When we start the day, entry for puts is gray. We haven't triggered it quite yet. Now it says triggered entry. This is an entry where you can enter a trade idea for puts.
He's on fire!
You enter the trade idea. You have a pretty good time on your contract because it expires next week. That's a lot of time for this to work out. Triggered entry, and it's going your way. Well, after going your way, it bounces, and now you might be thinking, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? It can retest the same level. And this can be very useful for others. If maybe on the first time, that could be your possible entry. Some people may be more comfortable with waiting until the second time that it hits the entry level. Both are very valid. And that second time it hits it may be something that you want to consider, and that may be your confirmation. That makes you just feel a bit extra confident. Okay. The context is gonna matter all the time, right? But what we want to encourage is that you are using this tool in full reference, and you're acting in such a risk managed way that you aren't overthinking the process. You aren't getting impatient. You aren't getting emotional as you are walking through a trade setup, right? And so as we even re-triggered said entry, oh look, we're going right back down towards where we even needed to go. Anyways, what was there even need to panic or be shaken away? Right? We have lots of time on our expiration. It's only been 10 minutes. Why not just let it play out just for a little bit longer anyways and get some more confirmation to the downside? What we can use is that range rush reversal again, which is a free indicator that you can get right now if you don't already have it. And as we break outside of the range that was established of the first 30 minutes, that's giving us even more confirmation of a move to the downside. Just like that. And so even if we enter early after a trigger happens, right? Because personally, I like to see a candle close. In this case, because we're bearish, this is a put position. I like to see candles close below it when I consider an entry, right? And when it's called, I like to see it cross and close above it on a smaller time frame. Sometimes there are going to be times where it love taps it, it slightly taps it, and then it reverses, right? But for the most part, when we see a close, it's very much low risk that is being put into place with at least what is being suggested by the entry, as well as suggested by the trade idea. As I mentioned earlier, it is not perfect. Context is going to matter, but for the most part, 86 to 89% of the time, when you just let trades do their thing, that a win is generated by either a 1% move in the stock, which is a lot for options trading, by the way, or futures trading, depending on your leverage, crypto, Forex, or a win determined by hitting the price target in at least 3 days or so. Okay. So this Verizon trade worked out really well, didn't it? And people from that options trade, at least the one that was suggested by AutoStratic, this went up over 50%. If you had weeklies, this went about 60 to 75% on this drop from the entry level. Make sense? Does that answer that, Yono? So since it's been about an hour that we've spent together, just a little bit less than an hour, we were saying it was going to be 30 minutes, but since it's the first time, I guess we're going to go longer. You know, people have football games to watch and whatnot. I want to just say, like, thank you everyone for your time. Don't leave yet, but I just want to give context that what we're doing and why we're holding these sessions, and we're going to have them every single day, is to demonstrate the different use cases for this. We only just scratched the surface of the tools available here, and this is the standard version of AutoStratic, by the way, but we kind of just easily walk through just how simple, how we're eliminating those gaps and overwhelming questions and decision making that we went over at the beginning about what direction is the stock going, how do we chart it, how are we sure, how long is it going to take until we enter, how far is it going to go, when do we take profit. We're walking through and not just skipping those steps. I wrote skipping those steps at the beginning, but we're really fully engaging and absorbing through the steps without worry, and saving so much time. What would take over 30 minutes to an hour, we're preparing it for you in seconds to a couple minutes. Okay? And so there's way much more to show, and we showed a couple of examples today. In chat and in this Q&A and everything, let me know how I did. Let me know what I can improve on. Let me know what you want to see next. And we'll definitely demonstrate all of that in the future sessions. It's going to be happening Monday through Friday, every single day, and giving more opportunities for you to learn more and how to use everything that we have to offer. Okay? Because we only scratched the surface. This is only the beginning in the first session. And we just want to make sure that you have the tools and everything to make your life easier in trading, to make it more comfortable, and so that you become in that number of the 20% of traders who are profitable. Thank you so much for joining. I appreciate every single last one of you. The attendance here was way more than I expected, and that makes me excited to the days to come. And so with that, I wish you a really great night. And I hope to see you tomorrow in the coming days and to engage in the Two-Stop Trade community.
Where'd you find this?